Good afternoon, good evening, and even good morning in some places of the world here, but you're all going to be up right now to watch the GSL. I am Unstable, joined here by Torch for our final session of Code A Round of 32. How are you feeling about it?
Feeling really great. There's going to be a lot of nice matches here today. We do have Jinro coming out later, the Swedish Terran player, and then we also have the one, the only, Slayer's Boxer.
It is an action-packed final session as well. We also do have I Am Happy, Startel Curious on the roster as well, so definitely going to be watching these ones. And of course, later on tonight, we are going to have another round of Code S.
And that will be broadcasted by you and Wolf once again in Code S. Nick and Dan, or Tastosis, will be back tomorrow to cast the GSTL tomorrow and the next day, and then the remainder of Code S this season.
Yep.
So sorry they went on vacation. They have deserved a really nice break. They've been doing a lot of really, really great casting for StarCraft 2 so far in the life of the game, and we will be seeing them for a long period to come.
It is a lot more draining than people think, and they deserve that rest. But we are going to start it off with Hyperdub versus Happy today.
It's going to be a really interesting game. Happy, he beat Slayer's Gambler, which is also known as Slayer's Tyson, I believe. A pretty good Zerg player, but Happy, a very, very strong Terran player coming from the Incredible Miracle team. Not so many results yet so far, so he does have a lot to prove. Hyperdub, he was previously doing very, very well in the GSL, and we'll see if he can continue that with a trend this season as well.
Hyperdub really jumped into foreigner fandom, or actually not fandom, when he did actually take out TLO in one of the very first seasons of the GSL. So here we go. We got yesterday's matches coming up on screen now. We had the OGS The Wind versus MVP Tails. Tails taking that one out. We also had Hoseo Van versus Fox Soccer. Van taking that out. Hoseo San versus FXO Sheth. A big fan.
Sheth.
Taking that one out. And we also had MMA going down 2-0 to Puzzle. Just not many people expected.
Yeah, that was a little unfortunate for the Slayers team. MMA has been doing very well in the foreign scene, but he came back to Korea, didn't win his final of the Super Tournament last season, and didn't clutch it out in the GSTL from last Thursday. Really good matches, but not exactly the results that were expected of MMA. He has been doing quite well, except for these past few results. So we'll be seeing if he can rally a little bit and come back for the future tournaments coming up.
I'm sure he can, though, because you can't put someone on that high of a pedestal and expect them to win every game. It is a lot of pressure, and he is still an amazing player. Just the results haven't gone his way these past few days, but that's all right, though. So,
but we also had Sheth qualify, which was amazing. The one foreigner coming over here, he did get given a seed because he was the highest ranking MLG player that came to GSL this season. We'll talk more about that later. But we do here have a Terran player, Hyperdub.
Yes. Hyperdub, usually known for his unique builds and strategies. It could be his last game in the GSL, though.
Or
it's round of 32.
He could be in GSL indefinitely. So
yeah, that's true as well.
Two sides of the coin right there. Do you think we're going to see anything unique here? We are going to be seeing a Terran versus Terran against Happy, so I don't know if he'll be doing the exact same build and just trying to use his micro to outplay his opponent, or if he will be going for some sort of different strategy like the screen tells us he will.
It's a toss-up, really. Like, he does have that arsenal in him. It is a best-of-3. If the first one doesn't go the way he wants it to, he can force the game into the way he wants to play it in Game 2. We've seen him do it quite a bit in his recent matches. And Happy is a very strong Terran player. People really don't understand how good he is at the moment. 2 wins in the recent GSTL. This shows how good he is.
And this was the recent GSTL match versus FOU they played on Friday. If you haven't checked out those games, a very, very good series. Not exactly how people were expecting it to go. Happy, as we were talking about last week, I was talking with Wolf, the Terrans from IM team, except for MVP, really are underestimated. They've got a really in-depth lineup, but there weren't a lot of players in the GSL and the GSTL before this upcoming season. So it's going to be interesting to see Happy, Yoda, how all these other race players from the IM team are going to do this season.
Yeah, looks like the maps for today are going to be Set 1 Crossfire SE, Set 2 Terminus Re, and Set number 3 Dual Sight. Very interesting maps here for TVT.
Yeah, it's going to see if we're going to have a different variety of play in these games today. Crossfire is the first map. It's a little bit smaller, and we're actually going to be jumping into it a little bit soon. But before we go in there, we want to talk a little bit about the different strategies that you can pull on this. Because there are those goals on the sides of the map, you can sort of rush to try to take an expansion there. And if you can defend it, you can get a huge economic lead over your opponent. But the problem is they're so far out there that you can actually, as the opponent to that, you can do a lot of like Banshee play or Hellion pushes to try to take that out.
Dropship play is extremely effective on this map as well due to the map architecture. It's very difficult to get to and from your main natural to get back and defend. And if you're not prepared for that, you could go downhill very, very quickly.
Yep. And for anyone that didn't notice, we are now being sponsored by Pepsi. This is the Pepsi GSL July. Very excited to have them here today.
Yep. Interestingly enough, Pepsi actually tastes a lot better than in the Korea than it does back home in Australia.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It tastes so much better here.
Well, I think it tastes good everywhere. But
yeah. All right, down here in the bottom left-hand corner, we have our red Terran coming from OGS. It could be his last game in the GSL. He could be here for a lot longer. It is.
OGS Hyperdub.
He already did that one.
Yeah. He's running out of ideas. What are we going to do?
I don't know.
And over here at the top right, we have our blue Terran, hailing from Team IM. Did very well in the GSTL a few days ago.
I am happy.
That seemed more like I am insane and evil.
Here we go. So these positions, here's a mirror map coming here from these guys, and I can't even use this keyboard to pull the stuff I want up. It's all good. There we go.
So right off the bat, we do see that Happy is going for a fast refinery here. What that allows him to do is he is going to get him the ability to get out of factory as soon as this barracks is done and go for some sort of fast tech play. You can get out faster Hellions and just scout with those, so you don't need to send out your SCV, and you can save a little bit of time from your mining. Or you can just go straight up to a Banshee or something else like that.
Yeah, we do see on the other hand, though, Hyperdub is actually walling off in front of his ramp. Some Terran players don't like doing this just due to the range of the Marines. Can take out a couple of the supply depots. Be very annoying early on in the game if they go for some early pressure.
Yep.
We do have a second barracks going down here for Hyperdub, but over up on screen we have that factory like you were talking about, very fast factory coming through. But it'll come down to which way does he want to go with.
And what is interesting here is we see neither player scouting right now. The thing is, there's not a whole lot of variation in your builds that you can really do as a Terran player versus another Terran player. So it is a good idea to keep that SCV back, just mining like I was talking about before. Once you get your first Hellion out or your first scan, you can use that instead, and it can really help balance out the game later on.
Well, it does seem to be the trend here recently in TBT, no scouting, just because the first Marine comes out so easily. You don't really get any scouting done whatsoever. You're just losing an SCV. The only real thing that it does give you is if it has proxied something. But on this map, it doesn't really tend to work well for that kind of play. And we do see a starport going down very quickly here for Happy. Going to be seeing some Banshee play, I'm assuming.
Well, we got
no, actually we don't have a Hellion coming out as well. I'm just blind. It's okay.
Well, he still can branch out into a Banshee play. If that Hellion finishes and then you put down the Tech Lab after that, it's usually a good indicator.
That happens though. So we do see here we do have actual concussive shells coming through for Hyperdub, going for more of a Bioforce here, actually bringing an SCV out, taking of Delnaga Watchtowers in the middle, both players sitting in the middle. Sorry, as Torch has just had something come off screen, he's just going to deal with that. He'll be back in a second, but we do see that Hellion be spotted by this Marine here. The Hellion taking quite a bit of damage.
Yeah, and you did scout those Marines moving off across the map. That is going to signal that there was a reactor going up, so he does know roughly what the build is going to be, or at least he can assume it. He can't know for sure, but it does give him the ability to be able to respond slightly. And this Banshee is going to be coming out. There are a lot of Marines in play, and Stim is coming up for Hyperdub, so he should be able to defend against this quite easily.
Yeah, he is using his Chrono Boost? No. He's using his scans very effectively at the moment. We'll see if he wants to actually save one up just in case this Banshee is coming, as of course we see Cloak is on the way. These Hellions doing a good job in the middle of the map. Does not see this force coming across though. He will be in a lot of trouble if he doesn't scout it very quickly. There is a lot of Marines here.
And he did get vision of it, so he does know it is actually coming. Yep, but it depends on how he's going to react. He is going to throw down a bunker here. If he can get that up in time, he should be able to defend easily. However, he does lose a Hellion in the middle of the field. That's not going to be what he wants to have happen right now. It probably would have been more efficient for him to send those Hellions as a counterattack or to take off some of the reinforcements.
Bringing all his SCVs preemptively to get on this ramp. We do have the Banshee going to work on all these Marines here. SCVs trying to buffer, giving that Banshee as much room to breathe as he can. The Hellion coming through at the back as well. There's only a few Marines left in this force. The Banshee should be able to pick these off with some good control. Now 3 Marines left, 2, and now he should be able to chase him off. But he did lose a lot of mining time there.
He did lose a lot of mining time, and his SCVs are still sitting there, so he is going to be very safe against this, but he's not getting the reinforcements that he's going to need. There's only 2 Marines left, so that Banshee from Happy is going to be able to keep them away quite easily. But Hyperdub does have Happy contained a little bit. He's going to back off slightly, but it does give him the ability to set up that gold like I was talking about before.
Yep.
If he can keep this up and keep the attention of Happy away from that expansion, it can really set the tide of the game later on.
Yeah, he is. He's also throwing down some turrets in his main mineral line to stop this Banshee going through. I'm just having a quick look. He did not cancel Cloak, even though he has been seen, so we'll see how that plays out in the matchup later on.
Well, the thing with Cloak is he's only seeing that there's 1 base up for Hyperdub right now. When you only have 1 command center, you have a very limited number of scans. So while he can scan you and force you back a little bit, if you play very safe with that Banshee, you can force the scan, back off, come back in, and if he doesn't have another scan, you can do a ton of damage.
Yeah, we do have this one Banshee going to work on a lot of these Marines. We do have a scan here. Energy is about 74 on the command center. There goes the scan. Stim going down does take out one of those Banshees, but that's a costly stim. A lot of those units do have lower health now. We do have a factory coming down here for Hyperdub as well, but Blue Flame in research for Happy.
Yeah, this is a really interesting play. He gets out the Banshee and forces a lot of Marines, so it prevents the Marauder count from really getting up. And then you get Blue Flame Hellions, which can do a ton of damage to Marines if you get them in the right position. So as you're talking about with the wall up, it's really good because you prevent Hellions to run into your base, you prevent a lot of early aggression, but you leave a lot of vulnerable buildings out there. Not too bad because it's something that you can react to and throw up another supply depot. It only costs 100 minerals to occupy that Banshee for a little while.
Yeah, Hyperdub splitting up his units here, trying to catch this Banshee out of position, but Happy not going to let him do that. He is still cloaked, got about 50 energy left on that Banshee, taking a lot of kills. He has 5 Marine kills now, a stim coming in from a couple of units, and something we've seen very recently is a lot of Terrans threatening to scan, but not actually scanning, and making the Banshee run away, use a lot of energy, and keeping that scan unless they desperately need it. This Banshee doing a lot of havoc here in the main, though.
Yeah, a lot more damage than it really should be at this stage in the game. It's unfortunate for Hyperdub that he doesn't have more detection going on, and his buildings are spread out. The reason he spread those buildings out is so that if a scan goes down, Happy isn't able to see exactly what he's doing, but the problem is it leaves him vulnerable to these attacks like Happy's doing right now with Banshee, or drops later in the game. It's something that is good for a short period of time, but then it can hurt you later on depending on the situation.
Yeah, exactly. So we do see that this gold is now up and running with the second orbital here for Hyperdub, but Happy's still on 1 base. He has got that command center up. It's going to take him a little bit to get it down into the natural here, but it looks like these Hellions may have found the gold. He's just going out to scatter. He does see the gold expansion. They do have Blue Flame. All these SCVs are going to die, and this is really going to hurt Hyperdub.
Not only is he taking down the SCVs, but he is taking down both of those mules, which mining at the gold is a huge amount of minerals. He's going to force this orbital command to fly away. However, Hyperdub's army is in the middle, so he will be able to get his expansion to the natural expansion instead of the gold.
It is a lot of downtime, though, which is going to hurt Hyperdub, but he did get a significant economy lead from having it at the gold. You can see here he is about 10 supply up, looking at the units tab. There is dead even on working. We do have an engagement in the middle, a couple of Marines going down for Happy, and it looks like Hyperdub does have a lot larger bioforce, forcing Happy to actually pull his command center back.
Yeah, both players right now are just floating their command center, so it is relatively even, but Happy does have a ton of Blue Flame Hellions here, and not a whole lot of Marines to fight against these Marauders that are coming out. If he's not careful, he can lose those Hellions very, very quickly, and then the Marauders will just clean up the rest of his army.
Yeah, we do have a stim on half of those Marines there to try and catch that Hellion. It is going to actually decloak, regen that energy. There's a lot of Blue Flame Hellions up here, as well as a Raven. It does have enough energy for a point defense throw to stop those Marauders.
And meanwhile, there is still a Banshee back in the main base of Hyperdub, keeping distracted. But there is the main fight going on here. The Hellions are not getting the range that they really need to take out a lot of the Marines, but the Marines are going down. The Marauders are still there. Marauders versus Marines. The Marines do have a slight edge in that fight, and they are going to take it out here. Yeah, there is a Banshee and a tank in that mix as well. I can't really agree with Hyperdub's decision to attack up that ramp into a concave. Yep.
It did look, at first glance, that he did have the larger army, but positioning is so important in this game.
I believe he scouted it and saw that there were so many Blue Flame Hellions and thought he had the advantage because he had the Marauder and Marine Force with the medevacs, but a siege tank came out just in time for Happy. He was able to take down a lot of the units from Hyperdub very, very quickly.
Yeah, and we do see that that Banshee that was harassing the main here for Hyperdub does actually escape with 2 HP. We are seeing the expansion now for Happy go down, being saturated quite well. Hyperdub a little bit behind here, hasn't transferred any drones just yet, any SCVs.
Yeah, there's a lot of SCVs in Hyperdub's main. He does need to get those over to his expansion, otherwise they are just wasting their time right now. Just going on break. They are part of a union here, so not exactly the most efficient mining they could be getting right now.
Now we do have these blue flame Heliums coming across the middle of the map, though. It does take out that Marine sitting at the watchtower. You can't really do any damage considering the positioning of these Marauders down here at the natural for Hyperdub, though.
And those Hellions do see a scouting SCV. Nothing really indicative of that quite yet, and they are going to be chased back from the Bioforce of Hyperdub. However, that does give them the information. That does give Happy the information that Hyperdub should have a natural going up, so they are roughly even. Happy did save up a lot of energy on his command center, so he did drop 4 mules at the same time. So his income rate is actually going to be skyrocketing, but Hyperdub did something similar as well, so their incomes are almost exactly the same right now.
Yeah, just looking here for Happy, though, it has had quite a few tank siege at his natural as Hyperdub does move out, but it's almost purely Marine Marauder. It is purely Marine Marauder. It's not going to be as effective versus these tanks as he would like it, especially with this Banshee. 3 Banshees and a Raven there as well. It does have enough energy for another point defense drone, so those Marauders aren't going to be able to focus down the tanks as well as they'd like. Yeah, it's very interesting to see a pure bio force coming out here from Hyperdub.
That's very true, and these Blue Flame Hellions that Happy has running around the map are really great. They're not doing any specific damage right now, but they're keeping that thought in Hyperdub's mind that, oh, well, there could always be a Blue Flame Hellion counterattack. He always needs to be worried about that. He always needs to keep a bunker in his natural and be able to defend against it.
We do have 5, 6 dropships being loaded up here with all his units. Going to catch him off guard, but actually does get caught by this floating barracks. Not what he wanted to see. We do see a scan going down at the tanks. All these units coming across. A Viking trying to work on the dropship, but as he does drop all these units here, they are in range of that one tank in the middle.
Happy did scout it, but he wasn't able to pull his forces over quite quickly enough. He is going to lose these Blue Flame Hellions quite quickly, but the Banshees are into play. Cloaked, there is no scan going down, so the Marines are going to die quite quickly. The Vikings are going to push these medevacs back, and that's really going to put Hyperdub behind in this game.
Yeah, we also, while this has been happening, Happy has taken a 3rd base at the top left-hand corner, but these dropships are being chased down by the Vikings and Banshees all the way home. It's just purely bio here from Hyperdub at the moment. It's really starting to hurt him now.
Soon it's going to be purely debris as these medevacs do go down. There's one left, but the reinforcements from Hyperdub are going to force his air units from Happy to back off temporarily, but they did do the damage they needed to, and they are going to be able to go home victorious.
Yeah, Happy's starting to get a significant lead here. He is 20 supply up. We do see Hyperdub taking his own 3rd base down the bottom right-hand corner, but he's severely behind in that. There's a lot of tanks in the mix here for Happy as well. As long as he doesn't get caught unsieged, he should just be able to slowly crawl forward if he wants to. He's just going to sit on the defensive at the moment. We do see a couple of those Hellions being taken out near the gold base, but he is going to come down and scout this 3rd.
Beautiful timing there by Happy. The 3rd from Hyperdub just got started, and he is going to scout it, take out that building SCV, just delay it a few extra seconds. The Hellions do go down, but they did exactly what they needed to at that period of time. Happy's really playing this game on point right now. He got the perfect timing for his Blue Flame Hellions in the beginning. He defended exactly how he needed to, even though he did need to pull a lot of SCVs, but he's just been reacting very well for the rest of the game against Hyperdub here.
Here we go. Looks like we are going to have a standoff here. The tank's being sieged just by that scouting Hellion. There's a lot of Hellions in this mix. A dropship coming over realizes there's not any Marines. Oh, looks like he's going to go for it. Can't say I agree with that. A little bit too far forward, losing a lot of fire force there, pulling the Hellions forward out of the range of the siege tanks, but too many tanks. This entire force here for Hyperdub is evaporating. Now siege tanks, unsiege are coming through just to finish that up, and things not looking good for Hyperdub right now.
Yeah, this army is going to get cleaned up, and there are a ton of tanks here. There's a really nice air force. I like this mix of the air units with the tank force. He is going to be able to push through here. He has the air control, so he gets vision for these tanks. He can leave some of the tanks siege.
Oh, he's actually going to catch all these transferring SCVs.
That is very unfortunate for Hyperdub. That's not what he needed at this point in the game. Loads them all up into a medevac, but that medevac is going to go down. Oh,
no, he decides to go for the natural instead, pulling back straight into the natural here. He's just going to be able to siege up, and then it's going to be the nail in the coffin here for Hyperdub.
Yeah, some of those tanks sieging up in the front, some sieging up in the back to be able to take down all those bio forces while still being able to hit some of the buildings.
GG.
Hyperdub, GG's. That was some beautiful play by Happy there. We see him right now.
Like I was saying before, he's really underrated by a lot of people in the community. He hasn't had as much on-screen time as other players, and it really goes to show that you don't have to have on-screen time to be a good player.
That is true. but he is getting a lot of good practice in the IM house. They've got a really strong house going on right now. Some of the best players in StarCraft 2 right now. And we'll see what he does in this next game. Our next match is going to be Terminus.
It is indeed. Terminus gonna play a little bit more to Hyperdub style, a little bit if he can get in there and abuse the timing before those siege tanks come out. But I do like how Happy went for those Banshees first to keep the game flowing the way he wanted it to. He did defend quite well against that early pressure. I really think that Hyperdub was planning on that to do a lot more damage than it actually did.
Yeah, that's very true, but the unsung thing I think was the Hellions. They didn't do a lot of damage themselves. They were fighting against the main Bioforce without the right position that they really need to do the DPS that makes them so good. But the advantage was that he was able to scout around the entire map throughout the entire game. He saw the gold base just as it was starting to pay off for Hyperdub, so he could take that out, cancel that, force it to flow back to natural. And then he scouted the third right when it was going up, delaying that, and he was just able to keep Hyperdub just confused the entire game and just not focused on the full battles that he really wanted to focus on.
Yeah, even though Hyperdub did have the more mobile force there, Happy still had all the information he needed to make the right decisions.
Yep. So on Terminus, it is going to be a little bit different. It's a lot bigger map, so maybe Blue Flame Hellions will help a bit more. But the thing is, your second and third are all in one specific spot, so they're a lot easier to defend with a Bioforce or a Tank Force.
Yeah. It is more common to see a lot bigger macro games on this map, so we'll see how these guys play in that one, rather than a close early game.
Yep.
As the game has started now, we're going to go into it any second.